This is my hometown, Khartoum, for months now in the grip of pro-democracy protests. Much of it brutally hidden from the world by Sudan's government. And yet people here are still risking everything for change. Even as the United States works to restore diplomatic relations with Sudan's government. Khartoum, Sudan's capital. As I was growing up here, the government's grip on its people was all-encompassing. But a rise in the cost of living in recent years has triggered protests against one of the world's longest-serving dictators, President Omar al-Bashir. The Sudanese government doesn't want the world to know what's happening. Any journalist caught reporting on the demonstrations risks life imprisonment and the death penalty. In the crowd, I try to stand back and film with secret cameras and smartphones and hope that I'm not spotted.
You can actually smell the tear gas that they've been releasing on other demonstrations a little bit further away. So people here are starting to get tense.
Some of the demonstrators start shouting that national security agents are on their way. Operatives infamous for their brutality. We have to leave. A family agrees to hide us in what people here call a safe house, but really is just someone's home.
The national security agents have arrived. They've broken up the demonstration. They're going from house to house. We've been brought into a safe house. We don't know how long we're going to have to wait here. They're trying to figure out how to get us out of here. People are starting to come in. We have to go in. I just saw their cars driving past. They're going from door to door, trying to figure out who was out in the demonstrations.
That sound you hear, tear gas cannons. We're trapped. Hours pass. We can only watch and listen through a gap in the window. Just next door to us, security agents are slapping and kicking a protester as they drag him out, the neighbor's son. In the end, we leave our equipment behind and take the risk to run. We got lucky, but so many others didn't. CNN gathered detailed testimony from former detainees held in Sudanese government facilities. Of the over 3,000 people who have been arrested since the demonstrations began, almost all say they've been abused. One of them agrees to speak to us.
كلهم ملثمين مسلحين وشايلين خراطيش السوداء. فمن تطلع من باب الغرفة بعد ذاك واحد فيهم لما اندفر الباب حس إنه في زول تاني فقاموا ساقوا الولد ووقعوا فيه كلهم ضرب في وقت واحد. هو ما معتقل عادي. أنا بالنسبة لي عبارة عن بيت أشباح.
Ghost houses, torture houses which the government says don't exist. We went to try and find one. For all of us who grew up under Bashir's dictatorship, ghost houses conjures up immediately the horrors this government is accused of. Torture, sexual assault, brutal beatings. Right in the center of Khartoum, we find a heavy military and intelligence presence. On your left, a screened-off square, a holding pen. Activists picked up in the city center tell us they're beaten here and sorted according to their alleged crime. We can't linger. Everywhere, there is a high level of security. From here, activists say they're moved on to any one of the ghost houses scattered around town. Using descriptions given to us by eyewitnesses and activists formerly held there, we're able to pinpoint one using aerial images, just south of the Blue Nile in Garden City. Keeping watch over this green building, we witnessed national security pickups and what appear to be detainees. Worse, though, is in store. Many of the detainees we interviewed described being tortured just across the river, here, in what's known as al-Thallaja, the refrigerator. Its very name inspires terror, and yet one woman agreed to speak to us.
نحن قعدونا في مبنى أصلاً مهجور، يعني مبنى ياداب أصلاً هو تقريباً قاعدين يشيدوا فيه. ونسبة لأنه أصلا إحنا كنا مضروبين ضرب كده ما حاسين، يعني ما حاسين بأي قطع في جسمنا، كانوا قاعديننا في مكان بارد شديد.
So why, in spite of all this, is President Trump's administration in talks to restore relations with Sudan? This is the brutal aftermath of the terror attacks on the USS Cole and the US embassies in East Africa. For years, families of victims have been seeking compensation from Sudan's government, who they believe was complicit. CNN has learned that a key requirement for talks between Sudan and the US is that Sudan enter into good faith negotiations regarding compensation for victims' families. In a statement, the US State Department does not deny that talks are continuing with Sudan or that this is ultimately about the terror claims, but says relations will improve only if the Sudanese government takes steps related to human rights. The Sudanese have shown no signs of doing so, and yet talks to improve relations continue. After days of searching, we are able to verify that the neighbor's son who we filmed being detained was released. Only after hours of torture, he says. You can see it here. Another casualty in the litany of victims of Sudan's brutal repression. This is what we witnessed in just one day back home. The demonstrations, the tear gas, the fear. But the horrors have been going on for so much longer. And there's still no end in sight.